Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. Utility workers rushing to get power back on in Louisiana, and rescuers continue their efforts to make sure everyone's okay. We hear from some survivors. The GOP is demanding an evacuation plan and reports on Americans still left in Afghanistan. This while many Biden officials praise the State Department's handling of the evacuation. A story of friendship between a U.S. veteran and an Afghan interpreter as the former soldier strives to save his friend. Federal agencies are expanding their use of facial recognition technology despite growing concerns about accuracy and privacy. That's according to the new findings of a new government report. America's longest war has officially come to an end. The last of the United States military planes have now left Afghanistan.
Taliban fighters firing off celebratory rounds. After nearly 20 years, the war in Afghanistan is officially over.
It's a mission that brought Osama bin Laden to a just end, along with many of his al-Qaeda co-conspirators. And it was not a cheap mission. The cost was 2,461 U.S. service members and civilians killed, and more than 20,000 who were injured.
The U.S. military conducting what it calls its largest non-combatant evacuation in history over the last 18 days.
More than 123,000 people have been safely flown out of Afghanistan. That includes about 6,000 American citizens.
Despite the United States' historic efforts, the U.S. top general in the Middle East says they weren't able to get everybody out that they wanted to get out.
I think if we'd stayed another 10 days, Louis, we wouldn't have gotten everybody out that we wanted to get out. And there still would have been people who would have been disappointed with that. It's a tough situation.
The mission to get people out is still underway. The United Nations Security Council has now approved a resolution for creating safe passage for people still seeking to leave Afghanistan from the Kabul airport, warning the Taliban that they should know that the world is watching them closely.
Everybody must be allowed to safely leave Afghanistan for whatever reason, whenever they want, by air or by land.
Republicans in the House are demanding a new law that would force reports to be made on Americans left behind in Afghanistan. And in the Senate, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says the total withdrawal from Afghanistan was a historically bad foreign policy decision for the U.S. But many Biden officials are happy with the way the evacuation was handled. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is calling on lawmakers to come back from their recess to consider a new bill. The bill would force the Biden administration to give regular updates on Americans still in Afghanistan. It would also require an evacuation plan to be laid out in detail.
For the administration to tell us what weaponry was left, what's the plan to get Americans home safely, so everyone could know and we could work towards that.
The latest numbers from the State Department show there are about 250 Americans remaining in Afghanistan. McCarthy says they will not be left behind. He wants a plan to get them out. McCarthy said Biden's decision to stick to the August 31st deadline has ramifications beyond just Afghanistan. And Congressman Moulton had taken a secret trip to Kabul last week. He said he believes issuing an evacuation order earlier would have been better for the U.S.
This was preventable because we wouldn't have had to put Marines in this position if we had started the evacuation much earlier. But I don't want to lose sight of the heroism of these Marines, because in spite of this terrible position that they were put in, they were doing unbelievable work.
Furthermore, Senator Ben Sasse says the pullout from the country is a national disgrace. Sasse blames Biden, accusing him of being cowardly and incompetent during the operation. Yet President Biden said that the U.S. is on track to finish its evacuation mission by the deadline. Sasse says Biden chose dishonor by trusting the Taliban, setting an arbitrary deadline, abandoning Bagram Air Base, and not expanding the perimeter around Karzai International Airport. The White House didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. All the while, NBC's chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, criticized the administration for carrying out a chaotic withdrawal. On MSNBC's Morning Joe, Engel said the evacuation of over 100,000 people was a success, but noted there may be people being left behind. And what's more, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says the withdrawal from Afghanistan is one of the worst foreign policy decisions ever made in the nation's history. And a Marine veteran who served in Afghanistan and a former CIA case officer explains why he thinks the withdrawal was such a disaster.
It is a landlocked country. So why then would you begin to shut down your air bases and be left at this late juncture with a single point of egress Kabul airport, and that is what led to this being such a disaster.
However, many Biden officials have praised the way the State Department has handled the evacuation. They note how the department allegedly issued notices to Americans in Afghanistan, urging them to leave back in April. Notices that many allegedly ignored. President Biden will address the nation today, marking the end of the war in Afghanistan. Pentagon officials confirmed Monday that the last U.S. military planes have left Afghanistan. The U.S. departure marks the end of a chaotic and deadly exit from the United States' longest war. 13 U.S. service members were killed last week in a suicide bombing attack at Kabul's airport as troops worked to evacuate people from the area. The Pentagon said Monday more than 122,000 people have been airlifted from Hamid Karzai International Airport since July. Biden's remarks are scheduled for 2:45 p.m. Eastern. Once on the battlefield in Afghanistan, an American veteran and an Afghan interpreter risked their lives to support each other. Now, the veteran is trying to save his Afghan comrade. He says the Taliban already killed one of his interpreters. Here's more.
U.S. Army veteran Spencer Sullivan is meeting his former interpreter in Germany. The Afghan escaped Taliban control and made his way to Europe. Sullivan says tensions in Afghanistan back in 2012 and 13 forged their deep friendship.
Abdul Haq and I were shot at by the Taliban a few times together. And he goes into combat unarmed, as every interpreter does, completely unarmed. So there were a few times where I had to grab him and throw him down in the dirt or in a ditch to protect him.
The former Afghan interpreter had applied for a U.S. visa, but was denied. Now his future hinges on an asylum hearing in a German court this September.
As I see the situation here, people, they enjoy their lives. I wish also to have this kind of life, to enjoy my life, to enjoy every single moment, and to have fun, everything here. But unfortunately, it's very hard for me to do it.
Along with scores of other veterans, Sullivan has been working to rescue Afghans who aided U.S. troops, but their efforts fall short in the face of a strained U.S. special immigrant visa program. For Afghans now in dire straits, waiting times range from a few months up to nearly 3 years. That wait can cost them their lives. Sullivan says he already lost another interpreter.
Saeed started to send me more urgent and frightened messages saying that he was on the run, the Taliban were after him, and he was in danger. And I couldn't really help him. I didn't know what to do.
Saeed was shot dead by the Taliban in 2017 while waiting for a U.S. visa.
I made a promise to him, just as America made a promise to him, to protect him and save his life. I mean, how can you turn your back on that promise?
Sullivan is now helping Sudais prepare for the upcoming hearing. The former interpreter says he admires the United States and believes in its mission. But now he has to find another way out.
A United States Marine officer who called out military leadership for perceived mistakes in Afghanistan in a video that has now gone viral has announced his resignation from the Marines. He was previously relieved of his command over the video, and he's still asking for accountability from military leadership. NTD's Jason Perry gives us the details.
Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller says the U.S. military should have kept open Bagram Air Base and used it for evacuating everyone. But instead, they left the strategic air base and performed the evacuation operations at Hamid Karzai International Airport, where 13 troops were recently killed in a suicide bombing. Scheller had a personal relationship with one of the Marines killed in the attack.
Today, after 17 years, I'm currently not pending legal action. And I could stay in the Marine Corps for another 3 years, but I don't think that's the path I'm on. I'm resigning my commission as a United States Marine, effective now. I'm sure there's some MAR admin on how I'm supposed to do that, and I'll work through that. But I am forfeiting my retirement on entitlements. I don't want a single dollar.
He says what you believe can only be defined by what you're willing to risk. Scheller believes if the senior leadership is held accountable, it would do wonders for those suffering from PTSD and for those still wondering if their buddies died for nothing.
The morning after I posted my video and I came into work, my boss came in and he asked me, "What were you trying to accomplish?" And that was a very tough question for me. And my response was, I want senior leaders to accept accountability. I think them accepting accountability would do more for service members and PTSD and struggling with purpose than any other transparent piece of paper or message.
Scheller says if the leadership would just say that mistakes were made, he would go back rank and file and complete his service in the Marines. He wants others to know what Marines go through and that they deserve more transparency from their leadership.
Those people who are there every day and don't get to leave the next morning or in the middle of the night, who go outside the wire, get blown up, bring their Marine back, and then go back out there the next day, they don't get the credit they deserve, and they deserve accountability.
Scheller said he has big plans for the future, but did not specify what those plans are. Jason Perry, NTD News.
If you have family in Afghanistan, bombings, chaos, and executions are probably the last things you want on your mind. Thankfully for some, families coming home. NTD's Miguel Moreno has one of those stories.
This is one of several flights that left the Kabul airport headed to France, carrying a number of Afghan evacuees. The Minister of France's Armed Forces says troops evacuated nearly 3,000 people, including 2,600 Afghans. Those are numbers, but here's what it looked like for a mother and daughter reunited after 12 years apart. Afghan actress Shakiba Dawad, in glasses, hugs her mother. Dawad helped get her mother, sister, and two brothers out of Afghanistan.
As soon as I saw my mother running to me, all this fear fell away. I took her in my arms, and I can feel her warmth. I rediscovered the smell of my mother, and it's something I had forgotten. My mother's tears reminded me of the tears she shed when I left Afghanistan.
Her family says they spent days trying to get into the Kabul airport. Dawad's 34-year-old brother, Mollie, says it was only until Dawad helped them contact French officials at the airport that they managed to get through.
Tried for 10 days going to the airport and the French embassy. So they didn't respond well. My sister, he helped me to reach the French troops in the airport.
Dawad says everything crumbled in Afghanistan, including her family's hopes and dreams. After being reunited with them, the actress said she hopes to rebuild their lives and help them dream again. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
More than 1 million Louisiana residents remain without power, and the death toll from monster Hurricane Ida is rising. Now a tropical depression, the danger is not over for those in the storm's path. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Hundreds of people trapped by Hurricane Ida's floodwaters in Louisiana were brought to safety Monday. Boats, helicopters, and high-water trucks worked as part of rescue efforts.
God bless us that we all survived. I can rebuild. I can rebuild. I can put a new house up. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it here or if I'm going to just move to Italy.
The storm flooded roads with debris and isolated the home of 70-year-old Theophilus Charles.
I was born here. We done went through all the major hurricanes here. So I figured I could stay young, and ride this one out, but I couldn't.
He says right now he has nothing.
I ain't got a dry spot in the house. My roof gone. I lost all my clothes, my furniture, my appliances, everything.
Louisiana's governor says if there's a silver lining, it's that the levee system performed extremely well. They were updated after Katrina.
We don't believe there was a single levee anywhere now that actually breached, that failed. There were a few smaller levees that were overtopped to some degree and for some duration of time.
The hurricane twisted and collapsed a giant tower that carries key power lines over the Mississippi River to the New Orleans area, causing widespread outages.
Almost the entire southeastern part of our state is without power presently. It's about 1.1 million homes and businesses. It's well over 1 million people.
The governor said 25,000 utility workers were in the state to help restore electricity, with more on the way. Energy company Entergy said customers in the hardest hit areas could be without power for weeks. President Biden has declared a major disaster in the state, ordering federal assistance. The storm is blamed for at least 2 deaths, with more expected. It was downgraded to a tropical depression Monday afternoon and continued to make its way inland with torrential rain. But as Ida continues to weaken, the danger continues in Mississippi, where heavy rainfall washed away a highway Monday night, and flood-ravaged Tennessee braces for the remnants of Ida's wrath. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Hurricane Ida knocked out at least 94% of the offshore oil and gas production in the Gulf of Mexico. Tracking firm Gas Buddy says the outages could help push gas prices up 5 to 15 cents a gallon. As Ida rolled out, donations start to roll in. That's including a huge donation by the owner of the NFL's New Orleans Saints and the NBA's New Orleans Pelicans. The funds will go to support hurricane relief efforts. In a statement released Monday, Gail Benson announced the $1 million donation to the Gulf Coast Renewal Fund. Benson saying they have also offered their facilities to government leaders to help in any way they can. FEMA will be using portions of the Oxnard Sports Performance Center to stage relief efforts. Also in the statement, Benson saying the Smoothie King Center received minor damage, but will be ready to host Pelicans games in the upcoming season. A new abortion law in Texas is taking effect tomorrow. It's among the strictest in the nation and is expected to block 9 out of 10 abortions. It's called the Heartbeat Bill, and it bans abortions just after a fetal heartbeat is detected. That's about 6 weeks into the pregnancy, and before most women even know they're pregnant. Legal challenges against the bill are ongoing. On Monday, lawyers for abortion clinics in the state asked U.S. Supreme Court justices to block the law. That's after a hearing scheduled for yesterday was canceled by a federal court. In it, judges would have considered whether to grant a preliminary injunction against the law, formerly called Senate Bill 8. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed the measure back in May. On top of barring doctors from performing post-heartbeat abortions, it also allows private citizens to bring civil suits against anyone who assists a pregnant person seeking an abortion in violation of the law. At least 10 U.S. federal agencies plan to expand their use of facial recognition technology. That's according to a report released last week by the Government Accountability Office. The news comes amid complaints about privacy and lack of oversight. Here's more.
The Government Accountability Office, or GAO, published a report last week investigating the federal use of facial recognition technology. Of the 24 government agencies surveyed, a total of 18 are using the technology known as FRT in some way, such as unlocking agency-issued smartphones or identifying criminal victims. According to the survey, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reported that it used an FRT system to monitor its facilities by searching live camera feeds in real time for individuals on watch lists or suspected of criminal activity. This system automatically alerts personnel when an individual on a watch list is present. 10 agencies said they plan to expand its use through 2023. The GAO report echoes previous research which revealed a lack of oversight regarding the technology. At a House Judiciary Committee hearing in July, lawmakers from both parties voiced concerns about facial recognition. A Michigan resident testified that he was wrongly identified as a felon by Detroit police because of a flawed facial recognition system. Some areas have already taken steps to curb the use of it. The state of Washington enacted a law last year requiring government agencies to first obtain authorization before using facial recognition scans.
European Union governments agreed on Monday to remove the United States from the EU's safe travel list, meaning U.S. visitors are likely to face tighter controls, such as COVID-19 tests and quarantines.
Americans looking to take an end-of-summer trip to Europe will need to take a closer look at restrictions before they travel, after the European Union on Monday took the U.S. off the EU's safe travel list as U.S. cases and hospitalizations climb. That means U.S. visitors are likely to face tighter controls in certain countries, such as COVID tests and quarantines. The list seeks to unify travel rules across the bloc, although it does not bind individual EU nations, which are free to determine their own border policies. Already, some EU countries, such as Germany and Belgium, categorize the United States as red, requiring tests and quarantines, while for neighbors France and the Netherlands, the United States is classified as safe. The bloc itself has been divided between those concerned about the lack of reciprocity and increased U.S. cases, and others more reliant on tourism and reluctant to restrict U.S. travelers. The United States wasn't singled out. Israel, Kosovo, Lebanon, Montenegro, and North Macedonia were also taken off the safe travel list.
Thousands of airline workers are seeking religious exemptions from mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. A group of attorneys is now stepping in to present their cases. Let's get the details.
A coalition of lawyers plans to represent a group of airline workers, all of them looking to obtain religious exemptions from airlines' COVID-19 vaccine mandates. The Florida-based group is called Liberty Counsel, a legal organization that defends religious freedom. It says at least 3,000 employees have stepped forward for legal help. They come from 15 airlines, both in the U.S. and abroad. Liberty Counsel founder Matthew Staver noted that these people were working during the pandemic. Now they're being told to get the shots or they're being terminated. On August 6th, United became the first major U.S. airline to require mandatory vaccinations for all staff. Those who fail to comply will be dismissed. On August 24th, Delta Airlines also announced vaccine mandates. Unvaccinated employees will face a monthly $200 surcharge. Staver explained that these measures have caused major mental stress among airline workers throughout the industry and in some cases have led to ground incidents.
People are losing their jobs for turning down the vaccine, but have you heard of a mother losing custody of her child for being unvaccinated? NTD's Miguel Moreno has the story of a parent who's experienced this firsthand. Fortunately, it did not last long.
A Chicago judge has reportedly reversed his ruling after being put under the media spotlight. Rebecca Furlet no longer has to vaccinate against COVID-19 to see her son. In what could have been the first case of its kind in the U.S., Furlet initially lost custody of him because she wasn't vaccinated. And Judge James Shapiro said the mother couldn't see her son until she was. Here's the mother's lawyer telling Fox 32 why she believes the judge overstepped his bounds.
The father did not even bring this issue before the court. So it's the judge on his own making this decision that you can't see your child until you're vaccinated.
Furlet told the judge she hasn't been vaccinated because of bad reactions she's had to vaccines. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, the judge didn't say why he walked back his decision in the new order. He only said, "This court hereby vacates paragraph 3 of its order based on the absence of a pleading or hearing on serious endangerment." The mother told the Sun-Times she's extremely happy with the decision, but the father's attorney called the decision unfortunate, and they are working on an emergency order to fight it. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The U.S. Census Bureau may have miscalculated the number of residents in Somerton, Arizona, raising concerns about federal funds and congressional seats. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Parents and students are packed inside a middle school gym, cheering for the school's wrestling team. The young wrestlers are 7th and 8th graders. They will be among the first to attend this town's first public high school. Somerton has grown enough over the last decade that it's also building a new elementary school. But the Census Bureau says Somerton actually lost 90 residents during that time, putting its official population at just over 14,000 people, not the 20,000 that many expected.
What we see emerging is a undercount or systematic undercount of neighborhoods that are predominantly people of color. It correlates with lower income as well as other characteristics.
An accurate census is crucial for the distribution of hundreds of billions of federal dollars, and it determines how many congressional seats each state gets.
What that means politically is that they will lose out in the political redistricting when we draw electoral districts. They will lose out in terms of funding.
In Somerton, community leaders can't believe the numbers.
They don't know our community. They did not do what it needed to be done to count our people, and it's just ridiculous. It can't be.
Somerton is about halfway between the U.S., Mexico, and California-Arizona borders. Most residents use post office boxes. A majority are Spanish-speaking farm workers.
Many of our residents weren't quite
sure if whatever answers were going to be marked correctly. So that was a huge impact in overall that they're not trusting the federal government.
While there is nothing new about undercounts, the undercounts in the 2020 census are worse than in past decades. Black and Hispanic communities are historically undercounted, and there was greater concern about an undercount in 2020 due to the pandemic. We reached out to the Census Bureau for comment. They said the census results are in line with benchmarks, despite last year's many challenges. The Bureau says it plans to notify governments in the fall about a new process for questioning census data. They will begin accepting cases in January. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Mollie Tibbetts' killer now faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. The illegal immigrant murdered the young Iowa college student and dumped her body in a cornfield. Christian Rivera was sentenced for the murder in front of Tibbetts' relatives on Monday. Rivera is a native of Mexico. He was wearing headphones for translation during the hearing and declined to comment before he was sentenced. He's also been ordered to pay $150,000 in restitution. Tibbetts' mother issued a statement that was read in court. She wrote about the night her daughter went out for a quiet run in August of 2018 and how she was awoken with the news of her death, saying, "Who could harm such a beautiful, vibrant young woman, so full of life and promise?" Iowa abolished the death penalty in 1965. Thousands of people rushed to leave a popular California resort area as flames approached. The entire city of South Lake Tahoe suddenly under evacuation orders. What started as an evacuation warning turned into an order. The city holds 22,000 people. Vehicles loaded with bikes, camping gear, and boats were stuck in traffic. Cars were stalled in hazy brown air. The Caldor fire crept towards Lake Tahoe. The lake is a recreational paradise for San Francisco Bay Area locals. It's also a national destination. South Lake Tahoe's main hospital sent patients needing special care to regional hospitals, far from the fire. The South Lake Tahoe mayor says he thought the Caldor fire would stay further away. In the past, fires did not spread as rapidly toward the tourist city.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here with a new message about your Medicare benefits. You may be entitled to transportation, meals, and expanded coverage for dental work that includes extractions, fillings, and dentures, all at no additional cost. Plus, depending on your zip code, you may be entitled to the Medicare benefit that adds money to your Social Security check every single month. Call and get everything you deserve. Call now. It's free.
I'm on a fixed income, so I called to get money added to my Social Security check. They helped me so much.
I called to save money on copays, get prescriptions, transportation, and my dental work covered. I couldn't believe I was spending money I don't have to spend.
Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline, and you can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Athletes who won a gold medal at the Olympic Games often become household names back in their hometowns. A New Jersey native won not one, but 2 gold medals in Tokyo, and her city held an event in her honor.
She's a runner, she's a track star, and now she is a celebrity in her hometown. Thingmo is the first American woman since 1968 to win gold in the 800 meters race. She says it's a dream come true.
When people ask me what I want to do in the future, what my goals were, I said I wanted to be an Olympian, I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I'm here now.
She was born and raised in Trenton, the capital of New Jersey. City officials, fans, and friends all came out to celebrate her victory. She received a check of $10,000 and 2 keys to the city from the mayor. But it seemed like her brother was the only one to know what she really wanted.
Y'all know that she loves pugs.
Oh, that is so sweet. Hey, John Harmon, she crying over a dog, you gave her $10,000.
Thing's parents immigrated from Sudan to the United States in 2000. She was born in Trenton 2 years later.
The NYPD helped remove an 80-pound cougar from a New York City apartment where she was kept illegally as a pet, animal welfare officials said Monday. The owners in the Bronx realized the 11-month-old female wild cat was not fit to live in an apartment and surrendered the animal last week. The cougar, nicknamed Sasha, spent the weekend at the Bronx Zoo receiving veterinary care and headed to the Turpentine Creek Wildlife Refuge in Arkansas. According to the Humane Society, cougars may look cute and cuddly when young, but they grow up to be unpredictable and dangerous. South Korea's parliament approves a bill that bans major app stores from forcing Korean software developers to use their payment systems. This stops Google and Apple from charging sizable commissions. It's the first time a major economy has made Apple and Google face this kind of restriction. The tech giants face global criticism for requiring payment systems that charge commissions of up to 30%. Google responded by saying they will see how they can comply while maintaining a high-quality app store and operating system. Google also says the commission money helps keep the Android operating system free. Apple says it thinks trust in the Apple App Store will sink, and Korean app developers will have less opportunities as a result of the law. The Los Angeles Customs and Border Protection reports over $50 million of counterfeit Chinese goods over the past month. China remains the primary source of fake products and pirated goods seized, according to the CBP. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more on the story.
China is still trafficking large amounts of counterfeit products into the U.S. Over the past month, U.S. Customs and Border Protection in Los Angeles seized nearly 40,000 fake designer products from China. The products include handbags, shoes, wallets, belts, and other items. They bore imitation logos from Gucci, Dior, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton. The CBP says the merchandise would have had a combined retail price of over $50 million if it was genuine. CBP's port director at the Los Angeles International Airport says counterfeit goods unfairly compete with legitimate products and reduce the incentives to innovate, both in the United States and abroad. China remains the primary source of fake products and pirated goods seized. That's according to the CBP's 2020 statistics. Chinese-made counterfeit goods seized last year would have been worth nearly $660 million if they had been genuine. They accounted for 51% of the value of all seizures that year. Fake products from China also include counterfeit COVID-19 vaccination cards, fake FBI badges, and even fake U.S. currency.
Chinese celebrities and online fans are finding themselves facing the wrath of Beijing, with social media accounts being shut down and celebrities disappearing from the internet. Insiders say the move could be politically driven. Here are the details.
Beijing has declared war on idol worship, part of a broader crackdown on Chinese celebrities. On Friday, Chinese regulators issued a list of notices. One of the new rules bans online lists ranking celebrities by popularity. The list goes on to outline 9 other steps to control celebrity fan culture, which it describes as having become chaotic. The following day, another government body under the Chinese regime said it would crack down on what it calls the shocking behavior of Chinese celebrities. Last week, one of China's most prominent stars, Vicky Zhao Wei, was scrubbed from the internet, while another celebrity actor, Zheng Shuang, was fined $46 million for a tax scandal. Insiders say the clampdown on celebrities appears to carry a political purpose for Beijing.
to clean up public opinion and strictly controlled speech before the CCP's 20th Party Congress.
The next Chinese Communist Party leadership succession is scheduled for 2022. It marks a critical time for party leader Xi Jinping, as it will determine whether he'll remain in power for a third term. And Gao says the first step to ensure that happens is by shaping public opinion, and that's done through regulating pop culture.
The entertainment industry is like a wind indicator, which will have a great impact on the society.
The incidents follow previous clampdowns on China's big tech and private sectors. In a recent speech, leader Xi Jinping called for what he called common prosperity. The rhetoric appears to be a new attack on China's wealthy, and this time it's taking aim at China's celebrities. A Communist Party insider says the effort was spurred on by Beijing's inner financial crisis. To protect his identity, we changed his voice and referred to him by his surname.
The celebrities have so many fans. They have huge advertising revenue, etc. From them, that's where Beijing can get a large sum of money to solve the central financial crisis.
Chinese celebrities have increasingly been targeted in recent weeks. Among them, superstar singer-actor Chris Wu was arrested and detained following rape allegations. Wu is a Canadian citizen. Since then, his internet presence has been largely removed, while a Chinese TV anchor, Chen Feng, was also accused of rape in one of the country's latest sexual assault scandals. Another star, Zheng Zhehan, he's being blamed for insulting the Chinese people after posing for photos at a war-linked memorial site in Japan. His films and TV series have likewise been taken down online.
The Chinese Communist Party's current action gives the signal that authorities are ripping off wealth from the celebrities, first done by creating public opinions through this kind of national hatred towards them. Then the central government will issue them a huge fine.
But Mr. Chen says Beijing's strategy comes with an exception. For members of the regime's leadership, the problem isn't that the celebrities are billionaires. It's about the fact that there are billionaires other than them.
The CCP dares to touch them? It's just a case of hurting a group without power or influence.
The action against celebrities comes on the heels of regulators targeting other groups, like education, tech, and business.
A commentary on the issue appeared in multiple Chinese state-run media sources Sunday. It describes Beijing's recent clampdown on various industry sectors as a profound revolution, adding that those who stand in the way will be left behind. According to the commentary, it's the sign China's returning to the essence of socialism. But on Chinese social media platforms, some comments compare the crackdown to the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s, a decade of social turmoil where arts and culture were restricted to only promoting party propaganda. Up next, announced reforms in the Cuban economy have Cuban entrepreneurs hopeful and ready to access state funding, but some are skeptical of how things will play out. Egypt depends heavily on tourism. Lately, that sector was having a hard time, but it's finally coming back. All that and more here on NTD News.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
Are you looking for a news source that does not spin the truth, doesn't push any false narratives, and instead presents you with the facts and lets you make up your own mind? Then go to readepic.com and try the Epic Times newspaper for yourself. It's pure honest journalism that's based in traditional values.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Cuban entrepreneurs running businesses ranging from selling dried fruit to repairing bikes and developing software are scrambling to understand the opportunities and challenges ahead after a landmark change in the rules governing the communist-run economy.
Cuban entrepreneurs, ranging from a dried fruit vendor to bike repair shops and software developers, are hoping to cash in on a landmark change in the rules governing the communist-run island's economy. Earlier this month, the government released regulations about a reform that would allow small and medium-sized ventures to formally incorporate as businesses and access state financing, ending decades of classifying them as self-employed. The measure is seen by many analysts as one of the most important reforms undertaken since all businesses were nationalized by former leader Fidel Castro. It does have limits. For instance, people can own no more than one business and cannot contract foreign partners or carry out direct foreign trade. But for Naibis Diaz, founder of Velo Cuba, a bicycle repair and rental company with 17 employees in Havana, it marks a significant change.
It's a moment we've been waiting a long time for, to really have a non-state sector, in this case a private sector, to be part of a global analysis of the country's economy, so we could help in every way we could.
The measure forms part of a package of market-oriented reforms undertaken by Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel over the last year, as the health crisis and tougher U.S. sanctions tipped the shaky economy into a tailspin. The Fernandez brothers, who own Deshidratados Habana, Cuba's only company processing and selling dried fruits, were nevertheless enthusiastic. Ricardo Fernandez says the reform may sound good on paper, but wonders what it will look like in practice.
Everything we see written down sounds wonderful. It gives us hope, but in time we would like to see how real this regulation is in practice and how sustainable it is over time. How regular is its application.
The Fernandez brothers say they have the land and suppliers lined up. Now all they need is the financing.
Good news for those looking to visit Egypt. The country, famous for its pyramids and the Nile River, is welcoming travelers again. NTD's Arian Pastar has the story.
A handful of tourists take photos of the great Egyptian pyramids. After 18 months of travel restrictions, they can once again enjoy the beauty of the ancient tombs. Egypt's economy depends on tourism, but less than a quarter of its usual visitor numbers traveled to the country in 2020, signaling a 55% fall in its GDP. The industry had already suffered amid instability in the country following the political unrest in 2011. But since the beginning of 2021, authorities have started to regain hope. COVID-19 restrictions for tourists are also relatively light. A single negative virus test upon arrival has been the rule since July 2020. Ministry of Tourism statistics show a noticeable increase in tourist numbers. Since the beginning of 2021, Egypt has welcomed 300,000 tourists every month. By April, that figure rose to more than 500,000 a month, around 50% of pre-pandemic visitors.
Tourism is starting to recover. If we look at the pyramid or the Egyptian Museum, we will find a very large occupancy rate, whether from internal or external tourism. Especially after receiving Russian tourism, we began to see a very large occupancy rate.
In early August, Russia resumed flights to Egyptian Red Sea resorts, ending a ban that had lasted almost 6 years. Moscow had banned direct flights to Egypt after the 2015 bombing of a Russian airliner. The attack happened shortly after it took off from the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, killing all 224 people on board. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
If you're finding movement harder than you want it to be, you might benefit by starting with something seemingly unrelated. The mind. Let's take a look.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. You may be suffering a health setback like perhaps an injury, or you may have an arthritic flare-up which can influence how much you move. But these physical limitations can easily be compounded by something else, your mind. Such physical ailments can force people to move less than they're actually able to. This decreased movement then compounds over time. While it might not be pain or physical limitations that are holding them back, these issues may nevertheless drain people of confidence and fill them with fear about leaving the house. Over time, they may elect to remain at home and give up driving or going for walks, leading to slower, stiffer movement and much worse mobility. These people can then begin to suffer from social isolation. They don't see friends as often and can't maintain or form new relationships if they're not getting out as much. This includes not participating in hobbies or other engaging activities that bring joy. The isolation can lead to or contribute to depression. If you don't feel like you've got anything to wake up for, the limited mobility may lead to a total abandonment of healthy habits like exercise routines and eating habits. Weight gain or eating too little can zap energy and contribute to further mental and physical health problems. Mind, mood, and mobility are closely linked. It may seem unrelated, but a stressful life event like the loss of a loved one, job loss, or retirement can contribute to physical deterioration just as much as a physical ailment can. Maintaining emotional and mental health, therefore, is essential to mobility and healthy aging. If your mobility doesn't match up to your physical capabilities, try to think about why that is. Are depression, loneliness, anxiety, or fear potential contributors? If they are, try to re-engage with the world around you by focusing on what you enjoy. If you can't bring yourself to venture out, try talking to a professional for help. It may help you ease your mind and give you the tools you need to get moving again.
It's time to go nuts for Trail Mix. August 31st is National Trail Mix Day. The mix is made up of nuts, seeds, dried fruit, grains, and sometimes chocolate or candy. Many like it because it supplies good fats and sustained energy. It's also lightweight and doesn't spoil. NationalDayCalendar.com says 2 California surfers claim they created the snack in 1968. But that might be a trail mix mix-up. An author published a book featuring the snack a decade earlier. Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com.